Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Thursday, December 24th. Thanks for being here for your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. I want to say Merry Christmas Eve to those of you that celebrate Christmas and Happy Thursday to those of you that don't. And for people who were hoping for a little bit of snow today and tomorrow, it looks like that is underway. We have a live blog up on WKYC.com if you want to keep up to date on what's happening with all of the weather as it rolls in. We're going to include our tweets from our weather team, including Matt Wintz, our meteorologist, who is also part of the What's New show, and of course many of our broadcasts, but part of the What's New family. He tweeted at 2 p.m. that the snow and wintry mix will really ramp up over the next few hours for most of us in the Northeast Ohio 3 News viewing area. He said road conditions will deteriorate quickly and that things just changed to snow on the east side. That was at 2 p.m. Now, our newest meteorologist, Matt Standridge, also tweeted at 2 p.m. that snow is starting to pick up across Northeast Ohio and the roads might become slick soon, and that parked vehicles in downtown are beginning to collect some snow. So if you're parked downtown, keep that in mind. You might want to give yourself another minute to get out there and scrape off or wipe off that car before you have to get on the road. That live blog is up on WKYC.com. Of course, we'll keep you up to date with any travel advisories and also your pictures and videos if you send them in to us. So you can catch that there. Now, even though it is Christmas Eve, the political world is still spinning and people are a little bit up in arms and things are up in air about those stimulus checks that people were expecting. Well, President Donald Trump demanded $2,000 checks for most Americans, and that was rejected by House Republicans today. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy are the two people that helped negotiate this $900 billion package that included $600 checks for most Americans. Well, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin also bragged that $600 checks would likely be in the mail next week, or at least direct deposited next week for the people that opt for direct deposit. Well, on a conference call on Wednesday, House Republicans complained that President Donald Trump threw them under the bus. That's according to one Republican on the private call who was granted anonymity in order to discuss the issue. Many had voted for the package, and they were urging Republican leaders to hit news shows to explain its benefits. But the president found common ground with Democrats, particularly leading liberals who supported $2,000 checks to most Americans. We saw Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi tweeting about that yesterday, and the Democrats said that they only settled for the lower number to get to a compromise with Republicans. Well, now, the bill hasn't yet been sent to President Donald Trump's office. He's not even in Washington, D.C. at the time. He's in Florida, so it's not necessarily primed for a veto, so to say, but Mitch McConnell will have to decide whether to send that bill to the president to see if he will veto it or what he will do with it. Now, we're also in an interesting situation right now, though, because the new Congress takes effect on January 3rd. Yes, the new Congress gets sworn in before the new president, which doesn't happen until January 20th. And right now, because of the timing, if a bill gets sent to a president under normal circumstances, that president can either sign it into law, veto it, or do nothing with it. Well, if a president does nothing with it, 10 days later, it just becomes a law. Well, we're inside that 10-day window now. So President Donald Trump could do nothing with this bill, and then they would have to do it again on January 3rd when the new Congress takes effect, because the bill would effectively be dead in the water. So a little bit up in the air on what we're going to see happen with those stimulus checks right now. A lot of people wishing they had those questions going into the holiday weekend. Even if the House is able to approve President Donald Trump's $2,000 checks when it reconvenes, when it's called back on Monday, it would likely die in the Republican-controlled Senate, which is due back on Tuesday. And as I said, while all this is going on, President Donald Trump is in Florida at his Mar-a-Lago resort. Bringing things back here to Ohio, yesterday, Governor Mike DeWine said who the people would be who would be involved in the next phase of the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine here in Ohio. That next group of people will be people ages 65 or older, people with developmental disorders, including sickle cell or Down syndrome, and also adults that are working in school buildings. Now, there's no exact date for this phase, but DeWine is hoping for it to occur in mid-January. And as of right now, the vaccine has not been approved for people under the age of 16, so they are not not included in this, but DeWine said he is hopeful that schools that want to return to in-person learning will be able to do so by March because of the vaccine. He's also encouraging schools to delay returning to the classroom from winter break by at least a week. That's what health experts and professionals are recommending. Right now, in the first phase of the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine here in Ohio, frontline workers, including healthcare workers who routinely deal with COVID-19, EMS responders, and people who live in long-term living communal facilities are currently in the process of getting that vaccine, part of that first phase, as I said. So DeWine did say yesterday that everybody in the state who wants the vaccine, he does expect that to be available to everyone that wants it, but it will be months before that is widely available to everyone here in Ohio. And on that note, let's take a look at the COVID-19 numbers in today from the Ohio Department of Health. Cases are up from yesterday. The cases are now at 8,828 newly reported COVID-19 cases today. The deaths are down just a bit, but unfortunately 95 people have been reported newly today to have lost their lives because of COVID-19. Now, our positive test numbers, our percentages, are down a little bit. The latest daily positive test rate is 12.2%. That's from Tuesday. And the latest 7-day average for COVID-19 positive tests is 13%. That is also down. The total number of new hospitalizations in the last 24 hours is also down. That's at 320. And right now there are 4,494 people who are actively hospitalized with COVID-19, and 1,124 of those people are being treated in the ICU. We've seen 35 new ICU admissions in the last 24 hours. We also see more hospital beds available today. That is at 32% of available hospital beds throughout the state today. Yesterday it was at 29%. Now let's take a quick look at the national and the global COVID-19 numbers. Across the U.S., the total number of reported COVID cases is now at 18,547,045. And the total number of COVID deaths in the U.S. is now at 327,573. Now, when we take a look at how we compare to the global numbers, the U.S. has 4% of the global population, but our percentage of our cases and our percentage of our deaths continue to tick up ever so slightly. We are now at 23.5% of the global COVID cases just here in the U.S. and 18.9% of the global COVID deaths just here in the U.S. Globally, we are now over 79 million COVID-19 cases, and the total number of deaths globally is at 1,737,074. Speaking of COVID-19, the Cleveland Browns have placed 2 new people on the COVID reserve list. Remember, the COVID reserve list is for people who test positive for COVID, but also for people who have come in close contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID. And the 2 people that the Browns have put on the COVID roster are Jedrick Wills Jr., offensive tackle, and also receiver Ryan Switzer, who is on the practice squad. Now, when it comes to Jedrick Wills Jr., he was the number 10 pick in this year's draft out of Alabama, and he has started every game at left tackle for the Browns this season. He was placed on the list after being identified as a high-risk close contact to someone outside of the organization. Now, in order for him to be eligible to come off the list, he has to test negative for COVID-19 over the next 5 days, which could potentially put him on track to still play Sunday against the New York Jets. And this is a big weekend for Cleveland Browns football. Potentially this weekend, the Browns could clinch a playoff spot and an opportunity to play the Steelers for the AFC North title. So again, big weekend for the Browns. So we'll see what happens there. Head coach Kevin Stefanski says that there is a possibility that Wills Jr. will be on the field on Sunday against the Jets, but it's only a possibility right now, and only time will tell. But I do know what I am asking Santa for Christmas. I am asking him for a Raiders win to clinch the playoffs for the Browns and a Steelers loss to give the Browns a chance to play for the AFC North title when we face the Steelers in another week. And speaking of Christmas, if you love A Christmas Story, that 24-hour marathon will continue tonight. That is a tradition that happens each year, and it will be airing on TBS and TNT. It will start at TBS on TBS at 8 p.m. and on TNT at 9 p.m., and it will run for 24 hours into Christmas tomorrow. That's it for your 3 News Now update for Thursday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, if you celebrate Christmas. I'll see you next up on What's New with your trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment, and then I will be out tomorrow for Christmas. Those of you who do celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. And those of you who do not, have an incredible Friday and a wonderful weekend. And I will see you back here on Monday. Everyone, having a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Stay safe and be well. I'm Stephanie Haney.